Is it really that hard to find a place to live? Home prices are becoming impossible. Everywhere in Europe, it's like to live in a house, you need to be rich. But a home is a right, not a profit-driven asset. In this new episode of What's Left, I will bring up to speed on the state of play of the housing crisis and which solutions are becoming designed right now. Okay, so a home is indeed a roof over our head. But not only. A home is essential to live with dignity. It is the theater of our own lives, a place to recharge, reset, and rest. But there is an issue.
Too many profiteers, far too many vulture funds, pension funds, investment funds, buying up, not to sell, all to rent, and they're exorbitant rents.
Nagyon szeretnék saját lakást, de ehhez szerintem vagy egy külföldi álommeló, vagy legalábbis egy stabilabb meló és sok munka.
E não tenho casa própria, neste momento a minha casa é arrendada e até gostava muito de adquirir uma casa que fosse mesmo minha, mas está completamente impossível.
Viele Freunde, also viele Bekannte, sehr viele Leute wohnen leider in einem Zimmer auch sehr, sehr mystisch, sage ich jetzt mal. Und es ist wirklich nicht einfach. Also
want ik weet, ja, er is natuurlijk ook wel veel dat er veel woningen gekocht worden om vervolgens weer verhuurd te worden aan toeristen.
Temos todos lugar neste país e em qualquer país, apenas tem que se calhar haver uma melhor regulação dos preços.
Waarom onze jeugd, onze kinderen die hier opgegroeid zijn, geboren en getogen, die gaan naar school, die hebben afgestudeerd, die willen gaan werken, maar die kunnen niet een normale woning, betaalbare woning krijgen. Het is niet fair.
In a recent survey, 62% worry about not being able to afford a decent home. 76% feel it is harder for them than for their parents. And many have their life deeply affected by housing expenses. Sorry, one sec. Hello? Really? I cannot believe your landlord has kicked you out. My friend just called me to tell me that he has 2 months to leave his apartment because it's now a touristic place. But my friend's situation is not an isolated case. Many cities are kicking out people who live in the city center as the spread of touristic apartments is rising without a limit. To find out more, we spoke with Irene. She's the chair of the new committee of the European Parliament that gathers exactly to discuss housing topics. Let's see what she has to say.
Short-term rentals is one of the topics that has been recurring more often during the works of the Special Committee on Housing, in all the hearings, especially mayors. Mayors is not one specific countries, but some cities, the cities that have become particularly attractive, whether it is for tourism or other forms of big cities, metropolitan cities, but also coastal areas, in some cases islands. A big stock of housing that originally was dedicated to residential rents now has become dedicated to tourism. So that means that there is less availability for families or couples or young people, and the prices are going up. This is becoming a huge problem. So I think what the European Union can do is to provide a more homogeneous legal framework, not to regulate everyone in the same way, but at least to give the possibility to those areas that are most stressed and that are experiencing this problem to have the possibility to intervene with the proportionate action.
Great, we are starting to have an idea of the problem and some possible solutions. Irene is very clear regarding short-term rentals. But what about other issues, such as greedy landlords and companies using houses as a speculative asset?
There is fear that if we intervene there, we can destroy wealth for many citizens. But I think we have to make a distinction between the big funds, the big investors, the big financial players that are indeed distorting the market, and the smaller one. We can introduce forms of more rigorous checks, making sure that we can have real registries to make sure that those who come to invest in real estate in the European Union are not, speculators. Trying to introduce some more transparency on that. What kind of society we want to build? We want a society where we value work, or where we value simply the rents. Housing is for living, and it's an asset for developing society, but it's not so much an end per se to create personal wealth.
Okay, so we talked about short-term rentals and speculation, both of which are major issues, and it's making the market go crazy. But what about concrete, affordable options? Let's talk to another MEP, Andreas.
When it is a European-wide problem, then we need also European-wide answers. And therefore we are pressuring that the European Commission is also coming up with a European affordable housing plan. An idea how we can in the future encourage affordable housing in our societies, to make housing, affordable housing, the top number one topic again in our societies. And I think we are not fighting alone as socialists and democrats in the European Parliament. It is also a lot of mayors of all the capitals of Europe, of all the big cities and the smaller villages, which are side on side with us, because also they know that they need help to fight the housing problem. And this is at the end what the European idea is about, to fight where people have problems, to solve the problems. And I think affordable housing, the prices of having a home is a big issue all over Europe, and therefore we have to give an answer. What we're calling for is, let's say, to create an umbrella for the people living in the apartment. So having a system that when it is, let's say, visible that problems will arise, of, let's say, having problems to pay your rent because you lost your job and you're in a different situation, that we create also systems, social systems, which help you to solve these problems, meaning to look with you for a job, but also maybe to restructure your debt and all these kind of things so that you can avoid eviction. But of course, at the end of the day, in a fully private system, it means that still people are evicted. Therefore, it's also important to have an affordable and a social housing sector. But what we cannot allow is that the social sector takes all the burden of let's say families with problems, and the private sector is not contributing. And therefore, this is where fighting eviction and strong tenant laws come together. The strong tenants law is, let's say, unjustified eviction is also prohibited. And this is what we are asking for. No unjustifiable eviction, especially for young families and children.
But there are people that are suffering even more this crisis. We are talking about homeless people and people at the risk of homelessness. And of course, other vulnerable groups. Aon wants to keep this on the top of the agenda.
There's a pre-existing commitment by the European Union to end homelessness by 2030, and that predated having a housing commissioner, having a housing committee, which is a big win for the S&D. In terms of homelessness, I think we have to be realistic, but we have to be focused. We're very much focused on child homelessness in particular, because of the effect that will have on a child all their lives. So we want to have a ban on child evictions. We tried to work on that through the poverty report that I'm also working on, but as a central part of our housing deliberations. We want to strengthen tenant rights, but we also want to have a fighting fund so that individual member states can tap into EU funding mechanisms to provide housing first solutions, which has been very effective in many member states. I've visited a housing first initiative in my own city of Dublin and see just how it's working to empower people out of homelessness. Our S&D Commissioner for Housing, Dan Jurgensen, is also the Commissioner for Energy. So energy poverty is obviously very important, trying to tackle that, the high cost of energy. It's having a big impact on the bills that the ordinary households have to pay. We cannot allow for the retrofitting of houses just to be a middle class pursuit. We have to be in a position that because you live in an area or because you have a certain income into your house that you are restricted from accessing some of the funding or grants that may be available to you to make your home more energy efficient. So we have to be sure that when we're retrofitting, it isn't a middle class pursuit. It's not something that only people with more money can do. So that's a key part of our deliberations as well.
As we said, housing is a right, not a commodity, and everyone deserves a place that they can call a home. But before ending, all of this is a political fight. To dig in, we spoke with Gabi, long-term activist for social rights for workers and citizens, with long work done in Berlin. She's now the Vice President on the S&D Group on topics regarding housing. She is the person behind some of the housing fights. Here is Gabi.
Housing is much more than a roof over your head. It's where you live with your family, with your friends coming over. It's where you feel secure. It is a basic, fundamental right. And therefore, for us, this is not just a commodity like for some others. Housing is fundamental. If you want to have a good life, you need good housing. And this is what we are fighting for as S&D Group. We also need a lot of public investment or investment of, for example, non-profit housing institutions, especially also to stabilize prices. We don't have a housing crisis, actually. What we have is a crisis of affordability of housing. And this is where we have to address our efforts, where we have to increase our efforts to create more affordable housing. We need to direct public investment and private investment into building affordable homes for the majority of people. We as S&D Group, we also think that we have to look at the different European funds that we have, and we have to focus them much more on housing. We need also on European level a bigger support for member states in investing in housing. You know, we have special programs, for example, Housing First, supported by the European Social Fund. We have Invest EU. We have different funds scattered, and we want to make one coherent housing fund of the European Union that shows every citizen, here we are, this is the amount we are investing in more affordable housing in Europe. We do that in defense. I think we should be also able to do this for housing, because the crisis of affordable housing affects all Europe, and it's a huge social crisis. We need affordable housing in Europe, but not to lose our standards of decent housing. Because I'm saying again and again and again, we don't have a housing crisis, we have a crisis of affordable housing. And we want to make sure that also the middle class that is quite affected by this crisis of affordable housing, that they get the necessary support.
Okay, so let's recap. Regulating short-term rentals, tackling speculation, strengthening tenants' rights, addressing harmful tax rules, eradicating homelessness, and ensuring sustainable homes for all. As you see, the housing crisis has so many layers: affordability, touristification, homelessness, house speculation. But let's agree on one simple idea: a home is a right, and we have to defend it.